يا ربنا يا ربنا يا ربنا يا ربنا يا ربنا لك الصلاة والحمد من كل الحياة يا ربنا لك الصلاة والحمد من كل الحياة.
والسلام على رسول الكريم وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن استنى بسنته إلى يوم الدين. All praise is due to Allah, and may Allah's peace and blessings be on the last Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and on all those who follow the path of righteousness until the last day. This is the fourth in our series, fourth workshop in our series. In this workshop, I will show you some sample lesson plans which were developed by different schools in different parts of the world and which have been Islamized according to the principles that we spoke about. You can see how it was done. You have already turned in your lesson plans, those of you that brought lesson plans, and those lesson plans are currently being scanned so that we can look at them together in the next workshop, session 5. We can look at them together to address your own circumstance here and the lesson plans that you have as a sample to give you a feel for how this can be done or should be done. Now, I would like to suggest to you that if you want a certificate for having done this course, you register online. You go to the website www.iou.edu.gm, and there you go to the free diploma campus, the free diploma campus. You register for the free diploma. There's no costs involved, that's why it's called the free diploma. And you will see a range of subjects that you can take. The lesson plan Islamization course will be there among the new courses that are available. Lesson plan Islamization. You need just go on to that course. After registering, you go on and you take that course. Taking the course for you means doing the exams. There are tests for each section, but it's all what we have covered. If you want to go back over it again before doing the test, you may do so. At any case, or at any rate, you complete those tests there, and once that's done, you will request for certificate, and an electronic certificate will be sent to you. You can have this certificate printed on regular paper, A4, or you can get it printed in a print shop on, thicker cardboard or type paper, and frame it and keep it as your certification that you did the lesson plan Islamization course. Okay? I will be doing other courses and offering other courses in the future towards increasing your knowledge in this field. And as I recommended, you have also the option of taking a certificate or diploma in education from our Islamic College of Education to further enhance your skills, about which we spoke, the importance of having the proper skills to do this job, so that we can know at the end of the day we have done the best that we possibly could. We have given the children their rights, and we have given the management their rights, and we have received our rights. Now, looking at practical example of daily lesson plans. This is from a school in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. This is biology, grade 9. The topic is the cell. So this was the lesson plan, which was created by one of the teachers. In their lesson plan, they indicate the duration of the class, etc. The objectives, we see the objectives there, the components and function of the standard cell. This is what, to clarify, actually the wording should be to explain or to clarify or to understand. And about the variation of sizes, shapes and sizes of the cells according to their function. Then we added from principle 3. What was principle 3? Relevant Quranic verse. Then the meaning of the Quranic statement that man was created from clay. Because this will be a confusion. Here they have studied, about how the cell is composed. There is no clay here. So it would seem to contradict what the Quran says. So this is where, as a teacher, you would bring the Quranic verse, just the section that says, and Allah created Adam from clay. So how would you clarify for the students that there is no contradiction between what they're studying about the composition of the cell and the fact that the Quran states human beings were made from clay? Somebody. We don't have any science teachers here?
I would say that it is the making of clay that became cell. From the clay, it became a cell. Allah used the clay and it became a cell.
Do you think that would be clear to the students?
Our brother told the pupils that Allah made life out of the clay. He said be, and it is. From there Allah created life.
Okay. Would that solve the problem for the kids? Pardon?
I'm not a science teacher.
You're not a science teacher. Okay.
But I want to tell the students that when Allah speaks about making man out of clay, I mean, he's talking about his creation of Adam, alayhi salam, from clay, and then the rest of mankind was came along from
The cells. That Adam was created from clay and then the rest of his descendants were made from cells. Is that we need a science teacher here. We don't have any science teachers. No, the bottom line is what? My major in university was biochemistry. Okay, so it's obvious to me. Clay is earth. Earth is composed of chemicals. You know, we see it as earth, but if you break it down, it is composed of various chemicals. And these cells are made of chemicals. So there is no contradiction here. Because when you break down the cell, it's going to break down into components. So you as a teacher of science, you can give them exactly what those components are. And you show that in earth, those same components are there. So when you say, just like human beings are made from clay, are we clumps of clay walking around today? Okay? So, in the same way, though, meaning that our essential materials were taken from the earth, it doesn't mean that we are earth. You understand? I think they can grasp that point. So in the class, how the class structure is set up, the students are asked about their previous lessons, whatever it was. Actually, if you're making a lesson plan, then what the previous lesson was should have been included. You know? We can't really talk about it because we don't know what it was relative to the teacher who produced this. Then, our Islamization comes in here in the introduction of the class. Principle 1, which is the oral and visual class environment. Of course, we greet the students. Assalamu alaikum. We have pictures and charts related to cells. But those pictures and charts, which are normally made, they are made in a vacuum. They are not made with any kind of intent to convey anything beyond the chart itself. We need to prepare our own chart. We don't just go and buy whatever is sold in the bookstore. We can take what was in the bookstore and we work with it. We have our art department. So we tell the art department to show the form of the cell, etc., but bring in something in that chart which will, whether it is that same issue of clay and its composition that is added there, Quranic verses added to the chart, so this becomes also further reinforcement of Quranic relevance to modern science. Principle 2, historical relevance. What we would do here would be to go back and find from our book 1001 Muslim Inventions, we would find the Muslim biologists who nobody knows about. Nobody. You're all adults. If I ask you, name me one Muslim biologist, what can you bring up? What can you do? What can you say? So, this is the time. We bring in the historical relevance. We let them be aware of a great Muslim biologist of the past. Or it could be somebody from the present. You know? So when you're preparing, you're going to have to do a little bit of work here. You know? All you have to do is Google Muslim biologist. And you'll get all kinds of stuff now on Google. Okay? So you can bring somebody from the present, maybe who has contributed something major in the field of biology today. And you bring somebody from the past. You know, 500 years ago, 800 years ago, who contributed to the field of biology. So you let them know his name, place of birth, and his contribution. Brief. You're not turning it into a history class. Right? This is one of the things that you have to be careful of. That in your enthusiasm to Islamize, you overwhelm the student with information until the actual core of the class you're supposed to be teaching gets lost. So we have to keep this balanced. You bring in only enough to let them know. Because remember, this is actually subtle, subliminal education. You could call it indoctrination. That's what we're doing, subtly. Because we're not telling them, I'm telling you about this biologist because I want you to be able to connect, biology with the family. No, you don't go into all that. This is the theory that you understand behind it. This is the tool by which you do that. You fulfill that principle number 2. Then the basic cell structure and its components are introduced. At this point, for your course, because of what is happening in science when they're teaching the development of the cell. And remember, in modern science today, they teach that the cell came about by accident. By accident. So what you want to demonstrate to them, because this is a classical case, demonstrate to them how this could never have happened by accident. Never. Because in the end, when you show them all of the components of the cell, the nucleus, the mitochondria, which is in the cytoplasm around the nucleus, and the cell wall, which holds it all together. You ask them, do you think this could happen by accident? A cell wall accidentally captured some cytoplasm and captured a nucleus. You think this is likely? The cell wall doesn't think and function by itself. You understand what I'm saying? It will be very obvious. It will be just like a clock. You take a clock, you take it apart, we see that clock working wonderfully. You take a clock apart into its parts. You ask people, do you think any accident could cause all of these pieces to come together into a working clock? The same way, look at the cell. The cell is 1,000,000 times more complicated than the clock. So what do you think? See, once you give that message to them, later on when they hear accident, they know this is totally ridiculous. So this is the time when we give them the clear evidences that we are not here by accident. And you're dealing with biology. This is still your same biology class. You're still teaching the cell, teaching the components of the cell, etc., etc. Then, moving on, a presentation is given there in the class. It's planned, a 35-minute presentation. And the teacher who had done this had done their Islamization by adding a definition of alaqa, the Arabic word meaning leech-like suspended thing, blood clot. But my note under that, if you can read that, is it's irrelevant to the class. So not appropriate for starting the class. You know, it's not just sticking in something. Well, it's from the Quran, alaqa. Usually when people talk about science and Quran, they talk about alaqa. That is one of the favorite topics, the leech-like clot, This is the stages that the embryo goes through when it is developing, you know. And it is something of note from a miraculous perspective that, you know, this could not be observed by the naked eye, but it was spoken about by the Quran 1,400 years ago. So that's true, wonderful, beautiful, but it doesn't belong in this class. It's not relevant here. So we're not just bringing things to convince them in a general sense. We still have to maintain our class, what the purpose of the class, what the concepts were. We have to keep working with that. So then the class went on to a discussion by demonstration about the cell structure, its function of its components, etc. Show the students variation of sizes, shapes of cells relative to their function. D, define unicellular and multicellular organisms and give examples. Now the verse describing the stages of the development of the human being, this is where it fits in. So here, the development of the embryo starts with a single cell which multiplies and becomes a structure of many cells going through different phases. So this is where you can introduce it. Then motivation. The teacher mentioned about the motivation. I say, what do you mean by motivation here? Most cells are small in size, but the egg cells of the birds are large. Okay, showing different cells of different sizes. Teaching aid, the microscope. Here, we can mention that the Quran described the human embryo, should be missing from there, before the invention of the microscope. This is the place. Right? Because in your class, you're talking about your teaching aids, you're using a microscope. What is the significance of the microscope relative to the cell, etc.? With before the microscope is developed, what, in the 13th century or 14th century, and 1,400 years ago, the Quran spoke about what could not be seen without the microscope. Here is your point. And then the summary, the summary of the class. Okay, so that was a class on cell biology for grade 9 students. Example, a sample of Islamized lesson plans. This is lesson plans for KG1. We're jumping all over. People send in their plans and we did them. This is for Basira School in Mombasa, Kenya. They're also engaged in the lesson plan Islamization project that we're working on. They've, in their lesson plan, you see they've organized the top of it, the class, date, time, subject, etc. The topic, read and write capital D. This is language, English. Okay, so English teaching is, okay, how do we Islamize teaching capital D? Right? You might say, not possible. Can't be said there's a little D and a big D, that's it. What can you make Islamic on that? No? So, subtopic to read and write capital D, big D, little d. Objectives by the end of the lesson, children should be able to read and write capital D and small d. Okay, that's the syllabus source, lesson preparation. So now, the class begins. You see their lesson plan is organized in chart form. To introduce a letter song, A, B, C. This is like the song that we had played here before, A, B, C. Yeah? And children, the activity, children will sing the letter song. You have flashcards, resources. To discuss and teach them how to read and write capital D, little d. Okay, chart. Islamic pictures. Because we're showing capital D and little d. Now that capital D can have a background. that background can be an Islamic background, of some sort. And preferably, it will be a background which relates to how you're going to Islamize capital D. So, when you go down to teach them about D, in the regular class they will say D for duck, right? Or D for door. Or D, these are the... So now what you start off with D for dua. D for dua. And then you make a picture of a little boy and girl sitting on the prayer mat making dua. Okay, you've now began the process of Islamizing capital D. And D for door, you can still teach D for door, but now you teach them Principle 5. Principle 5, a moral lesson, right? The moral principle. That when you knock on the door 3 times, they don't answer, what do? Go away. You just taught them a piece of Islamic etiquette, moral etiquette, while teaching capital D for door. D also for dad. Capital D. D for dad. So you show a father figure, with his cap and dress, etc. That's dad. And with D for dad, you teach again Principle 5. Obey dad. If dad tells you to do something, you obey him. And there is a game which they teach in those lower grades. I think it's Simon Says. Simon Says, do this, and then they do some game. I can't remember the details. I just remember Simon Says. Okay, so instead of Simon Says, Dad says. So, you see what's happening? You see how we are bringing in our moral principles without it being formal. It's just thinking a little bit. So we make up a new game based on Simon Says, but instead it is Dad Says. They can enjoy it, and they're learning about obedience to Dad. Simon Says is, who's Simon? Who's Simon? English teachers. Who is Simon? Nobody knows who Simon is. Right? So, for us, whatever we're teaching, it should be relevant. It has meaning. We are not just teaching things for the sake of teaching. So with that kind of approach, then we try to find ways and means by which we can influence the children Islamically through whatever we're teaching. D also, capital D, D for doll. So we have, I don't know if you've seen the dolls from Iran. They made this replacing Barbie with an Islamic girl doll, fully hijab and all these things. So that's the picture that you show, right? Is that difficult? So in this way, again, because the doll is legitimate Islamically, we are allowed to have, children are allowed to have dolls. Prophet Muhammad allowed Aisha to have, so it's possible. And for the Quranic verse, principle 3, when we did dua, then we give them which verse? Ud'uni astajib lakum. Allah said, call on me and I will answer you. So in that little verse, we're giving them also clear messages. You don't call on anyone besides Allah in dua. Here's Tawheed right there. Do you need to have a class on Tawheed after this? You know, Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, Asma wa Sifat and Uluhiyyah for kids in that grade. Of course, it has no meaning to them. This is how you teach them. And the knock on the door 3 times, that was from principle 4. That is the relevant hadith. You brought in a relevant hadith in that lesson. Okay, before that, anybody had any comment, question they'd like to add to this class? This is teaching capital D and little d. So it means the whole alphabet. Those of you teaching English, the same thing. For A, B, C, you work all your way through, you do the same thing that this is done. You can prepare that. From this, you can prepare an alphabet book where these same principles are put in the book. You don't have to think anymore. Each time you have to teach a lesson, it's already prepared. So you who are teaching English, you work on it ahead of time, prepare up for all the letters, work out these kind of details for all the letters, then that makes class so much easier for you. Alaikum salam.
I think with the letters, when you can also name the prophets that begin with the letter or the sound. Like
Yes.
we have
Dawood.
a short story about the prophet Dawood. Something very simple.
Yeah. I mean, the point is that if we go to the story of Prophet Dawood, so now we're going off, right? You know, that is, this when you are doing a thematic approach, maybe if your theme for the week or for the month are the prophets, then maybe you can put it in the class that way. But as a straight class, just teaching the letter, I wouldn't go too deep into the life of Prophet Dawood and you know. Enough we say Dawood, Prophet Dawood, one of our prophets. That's enough without going into detail. Because remember now, this was KG, right? So the depth will be for the higher grades. Any comments, brother's side? Comment or question? Yeah?
How could this be implemented by a non-Muslim teacher?
How could this be implemented by a non-Muslim teacher? It should have Muslim teachers. That is the norm. Now you're dealing with abnormal circumstances, right? When we deal with abnormal circumstances, then we have to put in place some other supports to help them do that job. And that's why I also said that in creating this, we need to bring the teachers from the various schools together to make that master lesson plan, so that in the next year, even your non-Muslim teacher can use your master program, manual, and teach.
I'm sorry, I'm not saying where we get it from. I'm saying some Christians have a problem supporting a lesson with verses from the Quran.
Okay, those teachers, those Christian teachers who would have a problem with supporting the examples in their lessons from a verse from the Quran, you say, Ma'as salama. Nice having you with us. But we need somebody who will be more cooperative and ready to do what they're asked to do. It's as simple as that. If you have somebody who is amongst you who is so rigid, I'm a Christian, I cannot quote from the Quran, that's not the type of teacher you need in your school. No matter how skilled she may be, let them go. You need people who are going to be cooperatives, who are willing to go along with the program. People who are not willing to work with the program, who are going to insist on their, then you have a problem. Because this person is going to be feeding those children, when you don't know it, their stuff. Serious. So my advice is, such a teacher, let them go. Okay. Any further point or question? Go ahead. Wa alaikum salam.
I just wanted to emphasize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَلَنْ تَرْضَى عَنْكَ الْيَهُودَ وَلَا النَّصَارَى حَتَّى تَتَّبِعَ مِلَّتَهُمْ. And secondly, I would advise...
Translate that to the people.
Now,
Translate the verse for the
the Yahud and the Nasara, they will not accept, they will not agree with you, they will always not want to follow your path, not until you follow theirs. They want to always, they want to impose their ideas on your own. So we should be careful while employing Christian teachers. Meanwhile, I also want to advise in addition that there are Muslim teachers, very good ones, but it depends on the way and manner at which you can get them. For example, if you travel to Lagos State, you find Muslim good mathematics teachers, English teachers who are staying there without job. And they are good ones, you can employ them. If we also extend your journey to a place like Ghana, you get good teachers. But it's the pay. If you give them the accommodation, you get them. But because of the fact that we are trying to establish an Islamic school, then you also take the pain of giving them a good accommodation, good salary, and let them drive the school on. We have a price to pay. And that assists us.
For recruitment, we have to be prepared to go beyond Kaduna. That's the point. You know, Nigeria is a big country. Well over 90 million Muslims. You can find the teachers if you look hard enough and you're ready to pay a reasonable pay.
We have security.
Yeah, okay, we have security issues and all, but you know, in the end, we still have to try. We try. And we have to, again, think out of the box. We're in that Kaduna box, right? We need to think outside of the box. Right? Inshallah. Thank you. Good point. Okay, let's move on. Another example from Basira School, Mombasa again, Kenya. This is KG2. The theme is water. Sub-theme, uses of water. Objectives: by the end of the lesson, the learner should be able to do number work, carry out an activity on filling and emptying, to find out how many small containers would fill a big container. Science from it, because in that grade they don't separate science as a separate subject. Everything is interwoven into each subject. So the science element, name the condition necessary for the growth of a plant. You know, this water, obviously. Language, read and write 4 to 5 letter words. Wash, cook, clean, drink, well, river. This is all, again, related to water, teaching them also vocabulary words. Here, you know, we can do some Islamic addition. Narrate the story of the well of Zamzam and how it was formed. Kids love stories. So this has a place here at that level. Number 4, this is IRE, is Islamic Religious Education. Know how to perform ablution in the most perfect manner and identifying the foreign parts, avoid wastage of water. Okay, so a bunch of points that can be developed there. You're dealing with water. We show them also go through wudu with them, make sure they're doing it properly. Then social and life skills, because their lesson plan is broken down in this particular fashion. Wash a handkerchief and identify their uses. And the importance of cleanliness in Islam. You know, that is their effort at Islamization after we had gone through the LPI principles. Experimenting, memorizing, demonstrating, observing, listening, watching. These are the teaching and learning activities. Teaching, learning sources, Holy Quran, Hadith. They just mentioned in general, they not mentioned the Hadith. One point to note, in their mention here, they have Holy Quran. Beware of this. This terminology, the Holy Quran. I think you're used to it. But the Holy Quran comes from the Holy Bible. That's where the idea of holy this and holy that comes from. The Quran describes itself as Al-Quran al-Azim, the magnificent Quran. Al-Quran al-Kareem, the noble Quran, and so on and so forth. It doesn't call itself Al-Quran al-Muqaddas. This terminology is not used. So just remove that from your vocabulary. Holy Quran, Holy Prophet, you know, just wipe it out. Okay, principle 1, visual environment. Images or models, children making wudu. That's principle 1 we have introduced there, the physical environment concerning the water. Principle 2, from 1001 Inventions, choose one. The water wheel, the water clock, these are among the inventions, Muslims' inventions concerning water. You can pull that out and show it to them. Reference, here it is again, Holy Quran. Surah Al-Anbiya, Ayah 30, An-Naba 14, Al-Ma'idah 6, Hadith, etc. Lesson development. Okay, so that's the basic core. There it is spread out in a chart form. Principle 1, the Quranic verse which is relevant. Teacher explaining about water. Here we choose a Quranic verse on water. There are many, many verses in the Quran regarding water. Teachers use different containers. Then principle 4, the hadith. Don't waste water even if you're on the bank of a river. I mean, one of the bad practices, malpractices, among children and amongst adults is the wastage of water. You know, making wudu, people have the taps just gushing there. The Prophet ﷺ used to make wudu from a glass. Now you might think, how in the world could you make wudu from a glass? A glass of water. One glass of water. Yes. We make wudu with enough to make 3 ghusls. And you heard what the Prophet ﷺ said. Even if we're on the bank of a river, we should not be excessive in our use of water. Teacher give them some work to do in their books, okay? Step 1 in science. The teacher introduces the lesson with a verse from Surah Taha, and we sent down water, rain from the sky. And explain the ayah. The teacher let them do it practically. Okay, sources of water, where the water comes from, right? Continuing in science, the teacher names the conditions necessary for the growth of the plant. Rain is included. Principle 3, again verse on rain. And step 3, sources of water. And this is where we have the Quranic references to rivers and to streams, to rain, to other sources. Teacher writes on the board words about water and let the children copy in their books. When writing about words about water, this is where you can introduce other Islamic terminologies. Give me 5 words about water which are Islamic. Huh? Yeah, English, Arabic, you know, which will be of common use. Not Arabic, which they never heard of. Arabic, which is in common use. We said wudu. That was one, right?
Rain.
Huh?
Rain. Rain.
No. A word which is specifically Islamic. Huh? Okay, remember now, where are we? We are KG2. Are we going to tell them ghusl? Remember, this is the appropriate we talked about. This is inappropriate ghusl for them at that level, huh? Huh? Miswak? But that's not water. Zam, okay, that was a word. Huh? Tahara, yes. Tahara. Kauthar, yes. River in paradise. One more. Huh? Cleanliness, this was Tahara. When we give them the Arabic term, we should also give them the English meaning. Arabic, huh? Okay. Well, ma is the Arabic word, water. So. Huh? Nahar. Okay, that's the Arabic word for river. Okay, okay, here we're mentioned because we said river and we talked about the river in paradise. But inshallah, this is the idea. This is what was required here. This was language that they had to produce this. And then, when writing the words, 4- and 5-letter words, referring back to water, like the words wash, cook, well, river, we show the image of the well of Zamzam. The river, we show the river, and we mention that there is also a paradise called Alpha, and we try to bring the two together. Teacher distributes flashcards. She tells the story of Zamzam, how it was formed. Okay. Islamic religious education. Teacher introduces the lesson with a verse from Surah Al-Ma'idah, "O you who believe," incomplete. Teacher identifies the 4 parts of wudu. Teacher ends the lesson with a song because the kids like songs. The song, "This is the way I wash my face." Okay, we have another song that came from, right? No harm. We replace it, make an Islamic version. Yeah? So wudu is described in song fashion, something the kids enjoy. Teacher introduces a lesson with a hadith. Cleanliness is half of faith. And explain its meaning. That's IRE. Then social skills at the end. The teacher teach them not to misuse or waste water. We said this with the moral principle, which they learn from it. Quoting the hadith, لا تسرف في الماء ولو كنت في نهر جاري. Okay, any comments or additions or questions? No? Is your hand up or you just... No? Okay, moving on. This is KG3, also Basira School. Topic is our home. Subtopic utensils, objectives. By the end of the lesson, the learner should be able to draw and name kitchen utensils. Teaching aids, charts, real objects, blackboard, books, pencils, rubber, reference, high flyer series, and the Quran. Okay? Teacher asks the pupil oral questions. For me, I added what would those oral questions be? Teacher revised with the previous work. Again, what was the previous work? This is just the intro into the class. Of course, because the class is on our home, then principle 1 would be to have images of a Muslim home, right? What would reinforce in them, in their minds, what a Muslim home should look like. And of course, a Muslim home, I mean, if we were going to do a picture of a Muslim home, what would we do which would strike them as what should be in a Muslim home? Should be clean, you're saying?
The whole family brings Jama'ah in it.
Within the, okay, a picture of the living room of